Okay, awesome. Well, thank you guys for coming. Week 10. So today I want to talk about the foot and how the foot functions in different types of shoe situations. I think we have a lot of preconceived notions, and Brenda, you said a couple of things: the dropped arch, that you wear orthotics, and we have some preconceived notions that the dropping of the arch, one, that it can't be corrected because it can, and two, our go-to is the orthotic, and that's not necessarily a bad thing in the very, very, very short term, but it is in the long term. So I wanna speak specifically to orthotics, and then we'll get to shoes. So orthotics have lots of different reasons for existence. First, we have this idea that flat feet, like if you were born with flat feet, not necessarily a fallen arch, but if you are flat-footed, we think that that's a bad thing, when it is absolutely not. It's actually quite a good thing. Not saying that everybody needs to have flat feet, but the variation of that from a higher arch to a flat foot, there's not like one right answer. What the problem is a weak foot. So a weak flat arch or a weak high arch, both of those are not good. So what we have discovered is that if that arch falls, or if somebody has flat feet, we contribute all kinds of things to it. We contribute back pain, knee pain, ankle pain to a flat foot, when it's not the flatness of it, it's the weakness. So when we put our foot in a shoe that has a really good supporting arch, which we equate to a good shoe, that's actually not true. And we've created a world of weak feet, because if you have a good supporting arch in your shoe, or if you use an orthotic just to provide extra arch, then all you're doing is, it's essentially the same thing as wearing a brace. You allow for the foot to weaken, because if it has a brace, if it has a higher arch, then your foot can kind of shut down, and it doesn't necessarily have to function as it normally would, because there's something there doing its job. So we've created this sort of idea that we need a good supporting arch. And so I want to talk to the orthotic piece of that. I'm not saying everybody needs to immediately like rip out all the orthotics in their shoes, but particularly the people that depend on an orthotic, like that orthotic has to go from shoe to shoe to shoe, and they can't go bare feet. That is like, can't go barefoot, and that's like whoop whoop whoop. That should be the alarm. That is a sign that the foot is weak, not necessarily that there's a mechanical issue, but that the foot can't handle what you're doing to it. So so that being said, and I also don't think everybody should go to a flat shoe, because that's also, it has to be this gradual process. But I really want to get out in the world and get rid of this idea that people need orthotics to support their foot, because there's a lot of people making a lot of money off of those orthotics. They're like $300 a pop or more, $500. I know, and that just that drives me batty, because I hear a lot of people that come to me with foot pain have already gone to the podiatrist, right? And now podiatrists are bad, just that's often where their orthotics are coming from. But then instead of taking the time to strengthen the foot with some exercises, that we just want to put the orthotic in it. So so that being said, with the orthotics, let me speak to a little bit about weaning. Because if somebody has an orthotic, then okay, great. So you want me to get rid of the orthotic, what does that mean? So you can't go cold turkey. So I often recommend that if you have an orthotic, start some foot strengthening exercises. And that can come in the form of all different kinds of things, from simple activation exercises do arch lifting exercises, and we can have a conversation about that some other time. But there has to be a process of recognizing that we want a stronger foot, starting to do regular exercises, and then starting to wean from that orthotic, whether it means you take it out for part of the day, or you, I always start with walking first. Maybe you walk barefoot more often for part of the day, but because then if you go cold turkey, then we increase the likelihood for a plantar fasciitis type of situation, or an Achilles tendonitis. Yeah, and that's what we don't want. But those two things, Achilles tendonitis and plantar fasciitis, are most of the time a direct result of weakness of the foot and the calf. So talk real quick about some of the anatomy. So some of the muscles that go to the tips of your toes run under your foot and out inside the inside part of your ankle and up to the back of the leg. So oftentimes if we have really tight, chronically tight calves, it's because we put a bigger demand on those muscles than they're prepared for. And those muscles in the back of the calf go to the tips of the toes and control, some of them go here in the arch and control the movement of the arch, and then they go to the tips of the toes and control flexion of the toes. So it has to be this combined effort attack to gently stretch, but stretching is not, that's oftentimes people also go to stretching. They just want to stretch the calf and they want to stretch the foot out when it's not necessarily a stretching thing that's going to make the biggest deal. It's an activation and a strengthening thing. So that being said, I don't want you to put in your brains that we have to immediately get rid of all of these things, because it can't go that way. Does that make sense? Okay, so if I had to speak about the perfect, like if we talked about the perfect progress of a foot, like we have a completely like virgin foot, it hasn't touched anything, it hasn't seen the ground, nothing. The best thing for that foot is to be uninhibited as much as possible in the growth process. So even some of these things that we're starting to put on babies as they're starting to walk is mind-blowing to me, because I've even seen arches promoted in a shoe for babies. Like they are supposed to be pancake flat, if not curved out a little bit. So like a sock, that's like the best, like if you want to provide warmth, because in the period from birth to like 3 to 5, there is a huge amount of development, even bones, like because babies aren't born with all of these bones in their feet. Those bones are growing and becoming, they're growing into how they're going to function for the rest of the life. So if we're cramming these baby feet into these shoes that are too tight, we're already setting them up for failure. So again, if we have that foot that hasn't seen a lot of shoes, but eventually you have to wear a shoe. So I brought with some of my kids' shoes to show. So this is a splay shoe. I'm not receiving any money from splay, but this is a type of shoe. Like, I don't know if I can compare it to anything else, but it has this massive toe box, like huge, to allow for those toes to completely spread out. We were at the beach today and I have to laugh because I've got massive feet. They spread out. They're like big honking feet. And my kids, my daughter in particular, was walking behind me in the sand and she was like, "Oh my gosh, Mom, you have these huge feet." And I'm like, "Thank you," because that's how they should be. They should be all spread out. We're cramming them into these little, I brought this just into this little, so here, this is a comparison. So this is one of I haven't worn these in 10 years. There's my disclaimer. This is my shoe. This is my 8-year-old son's shoe. And you can just tell the difference. Like, this is my adult foot And I'm not creating any weird like optical illusion. You can see that is so much smaller than even my 8-year-old son's foot. So
They're really cute though.
they're really cute. I wore them to my husband's class reunion a long time ago, years ago. But I can't get rid of them. I get it. I don't wear them, but there's something about having them. Makes me feel good. But anywho, so I would love to see a new generation of kids that are growing up without cramming their feet into a small shoe, because that's what we should look for. So then if we can continue on, then we have shoes that we do different things in. Running shoes, walking shoes normal day to day. So the same principles of a good shoe is that it should have a really wide toe box, anything, sandals, anything. Running shoes should have these are actually not my favorite, but I used to wear these until they weren't big enough for my massive foot, but they should be wide enough so that your foot can completely spread out, almost to the point where you don't necessarily even feel the sides of that shoe touching your foot. Now, there's not many shoes out there like that right now. And then there's the whole Vibram thing, which we can chat about if we need to. But so those are my thoughts on like how the foot should function, and my whole unfortunate opinion about orthotics. And then actually when I was preparing, when people were jumping on earlier, one more thing I do want to talk about is, since I got ladies here and I got a couple minutes, this also will affect bladder control wearing a shoe or a shoe that is not appropriate for your foot. And this is why, because if you are so this is I transitioned to a whole different topic. I'm just going from one thing to the next. So if you are in this shoe or anything that has a crazy heel like this, you're upright and your pelvis tips forward. So if your pelvis is tipping forward, so here I have a full female pelvis. So if this is how your pelvis should sit, and then you wear a high heel that puts your pelvis tilting forward. So this is the front. This is your bladder. So that bladder is the first thing up against your pubic bone. So if you tilt that whole thing forward, you're actually putting extra pressure on your bladder and your pelvic floor. So if you're chronically in high heels, the probability of having problems with pelvic floor control and possibly bowel and bladder issues, mainly bladder, your feet and your shoes can be to blame for that. Just another thing I wanted to throw out there. Yeah, do you guys have any questions? Oh, I also wanted to, yeah, those are the things, those are the main things that I wanted to chat about, unless anybody has anything that they want to know.
I was going to comment on the toe box thing with your son's shoe.
Yeah.
When I buy shoes, if I can put them on after I've worn out a pair and I feel like they're worn out, but they're brand new, I know I have a good shoe. And my running shoes that I have, I get the Ultras, which have a really wide toe box, and there's zero drop. And you didn't mention anything about zero drop.
Zero drop, yeah.
But
yeah.
I did have to, when I bought my first pair, Mike at the jogging shop, he said, wear these for a couple, like 20 minutes in the house and work my way up before I went out and ran in them. Because I've been wearing something else. I can't even remember because it's been so long.
Yeah, so the drop, and is that a term everybody's familiar with? So the zero drop shoe is a trend which is we're going towards, which is really, really helpful. And interestingly enough, I'll tell it right after. So zero drop means at the height from the front of the shoe there's no difference from the front of the shoe to the back of the shoe. Whereas this type of shoe, definitely, these are my old shoes before I knew better, that you can see that the front of this shoe, or the front of the shoe is narrow and the back of the shoe is built up. almost as if you're running in a heel, like the heel is higher.
Mhm.
What the zero drop means is that there is no difference from the front to the back. So you're essentially running on a flat surface instead of a tilted surface. I have a friend, a very good friend of mine, who when she would leak, her bladder would leak while she ran, and I suggested, I said, try a zero drop shoe. And she went from a big shoe to a zero drop shoe, and she stopped leaking just from running,
Wow.
just from changing her running shoe. So it's a big deal. We don't address it, and we don't think about how our shoes affect bladder control. But Emily, that's a great, yeah, zero drop is definitely on the upward trend because people are really, they're seeing the benefit of it, maybe, and you have to work into it. Just like I said, you have to wean out of the orthotic. You have to wean yourself off of a higher shoe into that flat shoe for sure. Yeah. Yeah, some of those zero drop shoes I really like. I haven't been running, but I would like to start again soon, and that's definitely a direction I will want to try. Any other questions?
So I have, I got my dad's feet. We call them Fred Flintstone feet. I got all the great features. Thanks, Dad. But I did get his curly hair, even though it's not curly. But, so 2E wide bunions. I started hammer toe. I finally learned what hammer toe was. I pronate.
So bunions, I can speak to those bunions. I had bunions as well. Because that's like the token surgery that I had growing up as a kid. I actually had my bunions removed at 18, but mine were from being crammed into a shoe because I had a pretty high level of soccer at an early age, and we, for some reason, thought it was the thing to do was to buy a size too small and let it form to your foot. Bunch of garbage, but anywho, I had to have surgery by the time I was 18 because of that. My feet were so painful. But there's a strong correlation between the bunion and hip range of motion. So oftentimes, because if you're, more often than not, bunions are not the exact same. You have one side that's worse than the other. And my suspicion usually is that the one side, and it can be genetic, but if there's one side that's worse than another, check your hip range of motion on that side, because oftentimes it'll be a little bit less than the other. Because when you are trying, and I can go into that, I don't want to, maybe we say that for next week, because that's a long, complicated description. But it can be also genetic. But it doesn't mean that they shouldn't be strong and that they can't be, I wouldn't say completely correct, that can't be them, but you can work towards building the strength in them. And there are apparatuses and things that you can wear even at night to help correct that.
Wondered about those things.
Yeah, you know what, maybe we'll talk about that. I have, yeah, things to do, things like apparatuses and things for your feet. But I do have a course, a foot course that I just launched, and that all of these things talk about that and how to make your feet stronger and blah, 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 blah. But yeah, I think that's a good idea because there's all kinds of things. And I have some of them, but I think I've given them all away. I look around my office here. So, okay.
Yeah, I'm extra interested because I do want to bring running back in. I'm not a runner. Yeah. I'd never ran before training for the half marathon. I didn't hate it, which was good.
Yeah.
So besides that, I want to, not tomorrow, but I want to work that in.
Yeah.
I didn't mind. I saw the benefit of having a little bit of running in my movement.
Yeah,
routine.
for sure.
But sure. I want to I want to do it right. And
Yeah. And you need a strong foot for that, for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
For sure. Awesome, guys. Well, thanks for tuning in. And yeah, I will at least talk about that next week. And I'll yeah, that'll be a fun thing. I've got all kinds of gizmos and gadgets. Maybe I'll make it a gizmos and gadgets. We can talk about boards and all the things.
Are you going to talk about the possible time change or something?
Yeah.
Oh, yes. So I'm thinking about doing it Monday morning versus, I thought about a couple of things. One, of just making a recording, although I like the interaction. I like hearing sometimes what people need or have questions about. I was thinking about just making a recording because that's what most people are doing. They're watching it later, which is fine, which is great. I've also thought about changing it to 9 o'clock Monday mornings, also to accommodate some East Coast people, because I know dinner, or I'm in the process of making dinner by the time, or, you know, we're in family time by the time it's 4 o'clock here. It's, you know, 7 o'clock East Coast time, or it's 7 o'clock Central. So, yeah.
Where are you at? Where are you at, Sandy?
I am in Northern California.
Okay.
Like way northern, like
Okay.
tickling Oregon.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah, way, way north. Where are you, Brenda?
I'm in Arlington, Washington, just north of Everett.
Cool.
Oh.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, so that's, I'm thinking about doing that possibly starting next week, but I haven't really processed through that yet.
For me to attend more live ones, it would be more beneficial for me to have it in the morning. 4
Okay.
o'clock is kind of like I'm gearing up for dinner and.
Yeah, that's what I'm feeling. That's what
and-
I'm feeling. Okay. I think I'm gonna push that one over the edge a little bit because it's also noon East Coast. It might be a little easier if people are on lunch hour or whatever.
Yeah.
So
I'd probably go to recordings because I work
you work.
from my regular shift right now, even though we've been working from home, is 7:30 to 4. So 4
Yeah.
is like, boom, we're off.
We're off,
I'm off,
yeah.
but and it's a little bit easier for me to tune in at the 4 o'clock working from home because I just go from that computer to this computer. But
Yeah.
I still would definitely, I told you this is the first live I've made it to.
Yeah.
But and even
Stop my
so you record them, so even if you went to a different time and you had live people, I'd